Good evening. Oh, that was the old me. Sorry about that. Good evening. Tell you what, you come 200 years in the future and everyone looks like highway bandits. Oh, much better, much better. My name is Ebenezer Scrooge. I think some of you may have heard of me before. Thank you for welcoming me into your presence like this. I would like to tell you a tale of my own, a tale of redemption, if you will, my redemption. To some, this may seem startling, to some incredulous, but please listen. It might just do you some good. Marley was dead, to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, the chief mourner. Oh, that was me. I signed it. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. I knew he was dead. Of course I did. How could it be otherwise? He and I were partners for I don't know how many years. Though I never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood years afterwards above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called me Scrooge and sometimes Marley, but I answered to both names. It was all the same to me. Oh, but I was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, I was. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. That's who I was. Hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out, generous fire, secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. I carried my own low temperature always about with me. I iced my office in the dog days, and I didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. Once upon a time, of all the good days of the year, on Christmas Eve, I sat busy in my counting house. The fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole. Now, the door of my counting house was open, so I might keep my eye upon my clerk. I think you call them clerks in this country. How quaint of you. Anyway, I was keeping my eye on my clerk, who I must admit was in a dismal little cell beyond copying letters. A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you. It was my nephew, Fred. Humbug. Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure. I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? You're poor enough. What right have you to be angry? You're rich enough. Don't be cross, Uncle. What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without any money? A time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. Uncle, nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine. Keep it? But you don't keep it. Let me leave it alone then. Much good it may do you. Much good it has ever done you. Don't be angry, Uncle. Come. Dine with us tomorrow. Good afternoon. I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why cannot we be friends? Good afternoon. I'm sorry with all my heart to find you so resolute, but I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. A Merry Christmas, Uncle. Good afternoon. And a Happy New Year. Good afternoon. My nephew stopped at the outer door to bestow the greeting of the season on my clerk, who, as cold as he was warmer than I, for he returned them cordially. There's another fine fellow. My clerk, with 15 shillings a week and a wife and family, talking about a Merry Christmas, I'll retire to Bedlam. Now, my clerk, in letting my nephew out, had let 2 other people in. They had books and papers in their hands, and they bowed to me.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have we the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night.
Well, we have no doubt that his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at this present time. Many thousands are in want of common comforts. Hundreds of thousands, sir.
Are there no prisons?
Oh, plenty of prisons, sir.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are still. I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then?
Both very busy, sir.
Oh, well, I was afraid from what you said that something had happened to stop them in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear it.
Sir, under the impression that they scarcely furnish Christian cheer of mind or body to the multitude, a few of us are endeavoring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We choose this time of the year because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
Oh, you wish to remain anonymous.
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Sir, many can't go there, and many would rather die.
If they had rather die, then let them do it and decrease the surplus population. Seeing clearly that it would be useless to pursue their point, the gentlemen withdrew, and I resumed my labors with an improved opinion of myself. At length, the hour of shutting up the counting house arrived. I dismounted from my school, tacitly admitted the fact to my expectant clerk in the tank, who instantly snuffed out his candle and put on his hat. You'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose?
It's quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient, and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used, I'll be bound. And yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work.
It's only once a year, sir.
A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier next morning. Now, I lived in chambers which had once belonged to my deceased partner. They were a gloomy suite of rooms in a lowering pile of a building up a yard. Now, it is a fact that there was nothing at all particular about the knocker on the door. It is also a fact that I had seen it night and morning during my whole residence in that place. But then, let any man explain to me, if he can, how it happened that I, having my key in the lock of the door, saw in the knocker, not a knocker, but Marley's face. Then, as I looked fixedly at this phenomenon, it was a knocker again. Humbug. I closed my door, took off my cravat, put on my dressing gown and slippers and my nightcap, and sat down by the fire to take my gruel. The cellar door flew open with a booming sound, and then I heard a much louder sound of rattling chains, much louder on the floor below, then coming up the stairs, then coming straight towards my door. It's humbug still. I won't believe it. Then, without a pause, it came on through the heavy door and passed into the room before my eyes, and upon its coming in, the dying flame leapt up as though it cried, "I know him, Marley's ghost." How now? What do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
I can.
But do it then.
Do you believe in me or not?
Mercy, dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?
It is required of every man that his spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men and travel far and wide. And if his spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander through the world. Oh, woe is me! And witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth and turned to happiness.
You are fettered. Tell me why.
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it of my own free will, and of my own free will I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you? Or would you know the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as full and heavy and long as this 7 Christmas Eves ago, and you have labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Jacob, oh, Jacob Marley, speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give. It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you what I would. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me, my spirit in life never moved beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hole.
But you were always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business! Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. At this time of the rolling year, I suffer most. Why did I walk through crowds of my fellow beings with my eyes turned down, and never lifted them to that blessed star which led the wise men to a poor abode? Were there no poor homes to which its lights would have conducted me? You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Oh, good. Make it rum, scotch, and a small pint of gin.
Not those spirits, Ebenezer. Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first one tomorrow when the bell tolls 1. Accept the second on the next night at the same hour. The third upon the next night when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more, and look for your own sake, that you remember what has passed between us.
When it had said these words, the apparition walked backward from me, and with every step it took, it disappeared. And being from the emotion I had undergone, all the fatigue of the day, all the dull conversation of the ghost,
oh, the lateness of the hour, much in need of repose, I went straight to bed without undressing and fell asleep upon the instant.
Oh, when I awoke, suddenly the chimes of a neighboring church struck the 4 quarters. So I listened for the hour. At length, it broke upon my listening ear, the hour itself and nothing else. I spoke before the hour bell sounded, which it did now with a deep, dull, hollow, melancholy gadong. Light flashed up in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of my bed were drawn aside, and I, starting up in a half-recumbent attitude, found myself face to face with the unearthly visitor who drew them. It was a strange figure, like a child, yet not so like a child as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium which gave him the appearance of having receded from the view and being diminished to a child's proportion. Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
You were bright. Cover yourself, spirit.
What? Would you so soon put out with worldly hands the light I give? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose passions made this cap and forced me through whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow?
What business brought you here?
Your reclamation. Rise and walk with me.
As the words were spoken, we passed through the wall and stood upon an open country road. The city had entirely vanished. The darkness and the mist had vanished with it, for it was a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. Good heaven! I was bred in this place. I was a boy here. We appeared in a classroom where a solitary figure of a boy glanced anxiously towards the door. It was my former self. The door opened, and a little girl, much younger than the boy, came in, and putting her arms about his neck, "I have come to bring you home, dear brother, to bring you home, 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 for good and all, home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be that home is like heaven. He spoke so gently to me one night when I was going to bed that I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said, yes, you should. And he sent me with a coach to bring you. And you're to be a man. And you're never to come back here. But first, we're to be together all the Christmas long and have the merriest time in all the world."
Always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered. But she had a large heart.
So she had. You're right, spirit, I will not gainsay it, God forbid.
She died a woman, I think, and had children?
One child.
True. Your nephew.
Yes. All of a sudden, we were now in the busy thoroughfares of a city. The ghost stopped at a certain warehouse door and asked me if I knew it. Know it? I was apprenticed here. There was an old gentleman in a Welsh wig sitting behind a high desk. Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig, alive again. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig, top couple too, with 20 pairs of partners. When the clock struck 11, this domestic ball broke up. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig took their stations, one on either side of the door, and shaking hands with every person individually. Obviously, there was no pandemic going on then. He or she went out, and they wished them a Merry Christmas.
A small matter, said the ghost. to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. Why is it not? He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that. It isn't that, Spirit. He had the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. The happiness he gives is quite as great as if it cost a fortune. Again, I saw myself. I was older now, a man in the prime of his life. My face had not the harsh and rigid lines of later years, but it had begun to wear the signs of care and avarice. There was an eager, greedy, restless motion in the eye which showed the passion that had taken root, where the shadow of the growing tree would fall. I was not alone, but sat by my side a fair young girl in a mourning dress, in whose eyes there were tears. She said softly, "Another idol has displaced me. If it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve." What idol has displaced you?
"A golden one."
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until this master passion, gain, has engrossed you, have I not?
Have I ever sought your release?
In words, no, never.
In what then?
In everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If this had never been between us, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now, a dowerless girl? So I release you with a full heart for the love of him you once were. May you be happy in the life you've chosen.
Spirit, Spirit, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me? No more, no more. Show me no more. Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer. I seized the extinguisher cap and by a sudden action placed it down upon his head. I was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and further of being in my own bedroom. I gave the cap a parting squeeze in which my hand relaxed, and I had barely time to reel to bed before I sank into a heavy sleep. Waking in the middle of a prodigiously loud snore, sitting up in bed to get my thoughts together, I had no occasion to be told that the bell was once again on the stroke of 1. I was in my own room, there was no doubt about that. But it had undergone a transformation. The walls and the ceilings were so hung with living green that it looked a perfect grove, from every part of which bright, gleaming berries glistened.
"Come in,"
exclaimed the ghost.
"Come in and know me better, man. I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me. You have never seen the like of me before."
Never.
"Have you never walked forth with the younger members of my family, meaning, for I am very young, my elder brothers born in these later years?"
I'm afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit?
"More than 1,800.
Well, that's a tremendous family to provide for, Spirit. Conduct me where you will tonight. If you have aught to teach me, let me profit by it.
Touch my robe."
I did as I was told and held it fast. Perhaps it was the pleasure of the good Spirit had in showing off this power of his, or else it was his own kind, generous, hearty nature and his sympathy with all poor men that led him straight to my clerk's. For there he went and took me with him. And on the threshold of the door, the Spirit smiled and stopped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling. Think of that. Bob makes but 15 bob a week himself. And yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his 4-room house. Then in came Bob, Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim. He bore a little crutch and had his limbs supported by an iron frame. "And how did Tim behave?" asked Mrs. Cratchit. "Oh, as good as gold, mother. As good as gold. And better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much. And he thinks the strangest things you've ever heard. He told me, coming home, that he hoped the people saw him in church because he was a cripple. It might be pleasant for them to remember upon Christmas Day who made beggars walk and blind men see." Then such a bustle ensued that you might have thought a goose, the rarest of birds, a feathered phenomenon to which a black swan was a matter of course. And in truth, it was something like that in that house. Bob said he didn't believe there was ever such a goose cooked. At last the dinner was done, the cloth was cleared, the hearth swept, and the fire made up. Then all the Cratchit family drew round the hearth in what Bob Cratchit called a circle, meaning a half a one. "A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us." "God bless us, everyone," said Tiny Tim, the last of all. "Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live."
"I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die."
"No, no, oh no, kind Spirit, say he will be spared."
"If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none other of my race will find him here."
"But what then? If he be like to die, he had better do it and decrease the surplus population."
"Man, if you be a man in your heart, forbear that wicked rant until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide what men shall live and what men shall die? It may be in the sight of heaven you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child." From the foldings of his robe, it brought 2 children, wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They knelt down at his feet and clung upon the outside garment. They were a boy and a girl, yellow, meager, ragged, scowling, wolfish, prostrate too in their humility. Where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints, a stale and shriveled hand like that of age had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Where angels might have sat enthroned, devils lurked and glared out menacing. "Spirit, are they yours?" "They are man's," said the Spirit, looking down upon them. "This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware of them both in all their degree, but most of all beware of this boy. For on his brow I see that which is written is doom, unless the writing is erased."
"Have they no refuge or resource?"
"Are there no prisons? Are there no work
houses. I was again in my chambers, and the bell rang out. I looked about me for the ghost and saw it not. As the last stroke ceased to vibrate, I remembered the prediction of old Jacob Marley, and lifting my eye, beheld a solemn phantom, draped and hooded, coming like a mist along the ground toward me. Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come? The spirit answered not, but pointed onward with his hand. Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any other specter I have seen. But as I know your purpose is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. The phantom moved away as it had come toward me. I followed in the shadow of its dress, which bore me up and carried me along. The spirit stopped alongside a little knot of businessmen. Observing that the hand was pointed at them, I advanced to hear their talk.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe. Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die. What has he done with his money?
I haven't heard. He hasn't left it to me. That's all I know.
This pleasantry was received with a general laugh. Well, it's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life, I don't know anyone to go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer. Oh, I don't mind going if lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I make one. I knew the men and looked toward the spirit for explanation. Suddenly, the scene had changed, and now I almost touched a bed, a bare, uncurtained bed on which, beneath a ragged sheet, there lay something covered up, which, though it was dumb, announced itself in an awful language. I glanced towards the phantom. Its steady hand was pointing at the head. Spirit, this is a fearful place. In leaving it, I shall not leave its lesson. Trust me, let's go. Still the ghost pointed with an unmoved finger to the head. I understand you, and I would do it if I could, but I have not the power, Spirit. I have not the power. We appeared on the street once more. Let me see some tenderness connected with this death. Oh, that dark chamber, Spirit, which we have just left now will be forever present with me. We entered poor Bob Cratchit's house and found the mother and children seated around the fire. Bob was very cheerful with them, and he spoke pleasantly to all the family. Then he broke down all at once. Couldn't help it. He left the room and went upstairs into the room above, which was lighted cheerfully. It hung with Christmas. There was a chair set close beside the child, and there were signs of someone having been there lately. Poor Bob sat down in it, and when he had thought a little and composed himself, he kissed the little face. He was reconciled to what had happened, and he went down again quite happily. Spectre, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I don't know how I know. Tell me, what man was it whom we saw lying in that bed? Suddenly we were in a churchyard. Here then, the wretched man whose name I had now to learn lay underneath the ground. It was a worthy place. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. I advanced, trembling, towards it. The phantom was exactly as it had been, but I dreaded that I saw new meaning in its solemn shape. Before I draw near to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be? Or are they the shadows of the things that may be only? Still, the ghost pointed downward to the grave by which it stood. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends to which, if persevered in, they must lead. But if the course is departed from it, the ends will change. Say it is thus, that with what you show me, Spirit, say it. The Spirit was as immovable as ever. I crept toward it, trembling as I went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave my own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. Good Spirit, your nature intercedes for me and pities me. Assure me that I yet may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three will strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons they teach. Oh, tell me, Spirit, that I may sponge away the writing on this stone. Holding my hands up in a last prayer to have my fate reversed, I saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down to a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was my own. The bed was my own. The room was my own. Best and happiest of all, the time before me was my own time to make amends in. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, oh Jacob, on my knees. I don't know what to do. I was laughing and crying in the same breath and making a perfect buffoon of myself in my stockings. I was light as a feather and happy as an angel and as merry as a schoolboy. I was giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to the whole world. Really, for a man who had been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, a most illustrious laugh, the father of a long and brilliant line of laughs. I don't know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. Returning to the window, I opened it. Golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious. What's today? Calling down to a boy in Sunday clothes. Eh? What's today, my fine fellow? Today? Well, it's Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow. Hello? Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner? I should hope I do. Oh, an intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know if they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? No, not the little prize turkey, the big one. Oh, you mean the one as big as me? Oh, what a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck. It's hanging there now. It is? Go and buy it. Tell them to bring it here that I may give them direction on where to take it. Come back with the man and I'll give you a shilling. Come back in less than 5 minutes and I'll give you half a crown. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's house. He shan't know who sends it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. In the afternoon, I turned my steps toward my nephew's house. I passed the door a dozen times before I had the courage to go up and knock. But I made a dash and I did it. Oh, bless my soul. Who's that? It is I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred? Let me in. Mercy, he didn't shake my arm off. I was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. Wonderful party, wonderful games, wonderful unanimity, wonderful happiness. But I was at the office early the next morning. Oh, I was there early. If I could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming in late. That was the thing I had set my heart upon. And I did it. Yes, I did. I did it. The clock struck 9. No Bob. 1:15. No Bob. He was a full 18 minutes and a half, just like Richard Nixon, behind his time. I sat with my door wide open that I might see him come into the tank. Hello? I growled in my accustomed voice as near as I could fake it. What do you mean by coming in here this time of day?
Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. Oh, I'm behind my time.
Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please. Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer. And therefore, I am about to raise your salary, Bob. A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking Bishop, Bob. Make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another I, Bob Cratchit. I was better than my word. I did it all and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, I was a second father. I became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laugh to see the alteration in me, but let them laugh. My own heart laughed. That was quite enough for me. I know how to keep Christmas well. If any man alive possesses the knowledge, may that truly be said of you, all of you. Keep it every day. Keep the spirit of Christmas, which is Christ, in your heart every day. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me into your presence. Merry Christmas. Thank you.